Embarking on a journey at R.G. Jones is to become a part of something. You're on a mission to make the world a better sounding place. The fact that we are here celebrating 90 years of R.G. Jones is unprecedented. Working in this game is a commitment like no other.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Simon Honywill.
A very warm welcome to everyone this auspicious yet somewhat unlikely occasion and in these iconic surroundings. To those of you here whose relationship with R.G. Jones is as a client, you may not know about some of the incredible pieces of this country's history this little company from Southwest 19 has been a crucial part of. The royal wedding in 1981 of Charles and Diana, the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales, the opening of the Thames Barrier by Her Majesty the Queen, officially the coldest I've ever been, and I've been to Russia loads. 40th anniversaries of VE and VJ Day, the 50th anniversary of VE Day, D-Day's 40th commemorations in Normandy, a series of incredible and moving events. In the Wapping riots, heavy-duty stands being used as weapons against mounted police. TUC and CND rallies in Hyde Park during the 1980s with over 100,000 people in attendance. Margaret Thatcher's second election campaign tour, Bill Burks and I driving an overloaded LT50 van through the Kirkstone Pass in the Lakes. We had no idea where we were going, they just told us to head south. We had to stop to let the clutch cool down. The foundation stone laying, topping up an opening of the Richard Rogers landmark Lloyd's of London building. That was seeing a job through properly. The rollout of what was to become the Eurofighter Typhoon. The naming of P&O's flagship Oriana by Her Majesty the Queen, more of which later. Buckingham Palace Festival of Royal Warrant Holders, not so long ago. Her Majesty the Queen's birthday gala, several times, I think. I certainly remember one in the Opera House and one in Drury Lane Theatre. She always said it was too loud. Countless Royal Variety performances, something called Glastonbury Festival, where we are now supplying across 3 stages at the last count. R.G. Jones was founded by Reginald Jeffrey, that's Jeff with a G, Jones, in 1926. Thanks to Robin, the first transaction document exists in the archives to this day. He was a pioneer, forged from a particularly British mould. He saw a need and went for it, designing and building much of the equipment himself. The Milton's van, equipped with what looks like 2 large wooden horns on the roof, was undoubtedly his own making. Beyond bringing public address systems to the masses via sterilising products, how off the wall is that, and inventing the Panatrope, an automated sound effects machine for the West End that utilised twinned 78 RPM turntables, Jeff went on to found R.G. Jones Recording Studios in 1943. The mention of which, to this day, brings a tear to the eye of the most hardened and cynical session musician. Many is the time when I've placed a mic in front of a musician who has noticed the company logo and said, "Wow, R.G. Jones, I used to record sessions there back in the day. It was a great place. The studio's clientele reads like a roll call for the great and good of the music business. Artists that recorded at R.G. Jones in the 70s included somebody called the Rolling Stones, Iggy Pop and the Stooges. How cool is that? And there was actually there's a new movie out about the Stooges, which is interesting. The Average White Band, Please Say It Was Pick Up the Pieces. That was such a great track. Alvin Stardust, Cilla Black, Gene Pitney, The Drifters, Status Quo, come on. In the 80s, we moved on to Sir Cliff Richard, need I say more? Aha. Here's a little story. Their first single, Take On Me, sold 5 million copies worldwide. They recorded all their hits throughout the 80s at RG's and beyond, I believe, and are still out there recording and touring with RG's progeny, Becky Pell, on monitors. Stage right. Normally you're over there, aren't you? Jackie Graham, David Grant, Dollar. Oh, David and Terrace, handheld in black and white. David Cassidy in the 80s. You sure about that, Gerry? Yeah? Yeah? What was it? Last Kiss. I'm coming on to that. Wham! Very good. I think Gerry may have taken some personal styling tips from George, actually. Especially if you look at some of these photos. Barbara Dixon, she made me a cup of tea once. What a lovely lady. And in the 90s, we had Pulp. Very cool. Another Level. Where are they now? And who were they in the first place? Check into the silent disco to find out. Nick Hayward, he stole my favourite shirt. And Jane McDonald. No, favourite shirt, fantastic day, yes. Good. Much was down to the reputation of the engineering skills of Gerry Kitchingham. In 1988, Gerry was nominated Top Engineer in the Music Week poll, and later Ben Robbins, both of whom it's great to see here tonight. And you'll be able to personally indulge in Ben's skills in the silent disco, for which he has created the playlist from the long list of studio clients. I want to see plenty of twerking to the hits of Jane McDonald. In the 60s, there was even a record label for a while, Oak Records, now a highly collectible label for those with a penchant for rare vinyl. All this talk of fame is all very well, and it's easy to be taken in by the reflected glory of being involved in the entertainment industry. But there is a side to the company that doesn't make so much noise about it. Although judging by the extraordinary list of clients, many of whom I believe are represented here this evening, you'd be forgiven for wondering why not. In order to avoid any fighting, the following list is in no particular order. St Paul's Cathedral, Ely Cathedral, Buckingham Palace, the Royal Academy of Arts, City of London Guildhall, Mansion House, the MCC at Lord's, the Sackler Gallery, Bait al-Fatu Mosque, the largest mosque complex in Western Europe, the Zoological Society London. The recent incident with Kumbuka the gorilla was nothing to do with the sound system, I can assure you. And of course, the All England Lawn Tennis Club at Wimbledon, whom we must warmly thank for their generous hospitality this evening. Thank you. The Sales and Installations Department has always, it seems, had one prerequisite. You don't get in unless you're called John. John Murray, John Collett, John Berry, etc. I'm sure there were more. John Chipp, RIP, had a profound effect on many of us and has to be worthy of mention. Here was a highly gifted carpenter who spent much of his time churning out the ubiquitous R.G. Jones 4-foot column loudspeaker, but when the occasion demanded, would produce a piece of technical furniture that was worthy of a place in the most esteemed surroundings. All from a workshop about 4 metres square, or 43 square feet in his language. What I loved about John Chipp was his total disregard for what he looked like, juxtaposed with his brilliant artisanal skills. The department has moved with the times and operates differently now, led by the talented and very busy JB. There are no more hand-built pieces of furniture, and John's bespoke 4-foot columns have been replaced by high-tech designs from the best manufacturers. Behind all the computer models and CAD drawings, however, still lie the essential qualities of being sensitive to the difficulties of installing modern sound systems into major public buildings. Most people don't want to see any speakers, and that's a problem when they want excellent sound. Who are you going to call? I think a major reason for the enduring appeal of this company is a certain attitude that is entrenched in the very walls of that really rather ugly building in Endeavour Way. Ask anyone who has worked at RG's and they will tell you several things. Not necessarily all great, but that's life. But I'll guarantee that words like family, friendly, nice, fun, trust, loyal, dependable will feature at some point. There is a gentle form of common purpose that pervades everything they do, and also, I think, a feeling of underlying mutual respect. It's always been there in the camaraderie of the engineers, freelancers and staff. From the first time we got a 40-foot Arctic down Hallowell Close, loaded it, and then all went to the Beehive for too much beer, to loading out Glastonbury in despicable conditions. There's not much humanity in loading trucks at 5 a.m. in February, but I guarantee you wouldn't find those in similar positions in other companies doing it. John and or Andy most likely will be there, however. I certainly won't be. I think John actually enjoys it, and let's face it, he doesn't look the type to go to the gym much. So there's a possible motive. But the fact that one or both of the directors is there surely counts for the common desire to deliver the best possible service. It's the kind of business philosophy that those of us charged with being at the coalface appreciate in a subtle but significant way. Trust me, I've worked at quite a few other companies, and none of them have the same vibe that glues it all together. John Carroll joined in November 1987, and I doubt he would argue his naivety. He was taken on as warehouse manager, a role he's never really given up, let's face it, Johnny. And he and I shared an office in Hallowell Close. In fact, if my memory serves, I came into the office on his first day to find him sitting at my desk, which I believe may well have been a Bob Capel wind-up. I was intrigued by John. He was as Irish as Mrs. Brown and seemed to have led a fairly sheltered life, something highlighted by his apparent fear of any kind of food that had been anywhere near a spice cupboard. Forward 4 years, and in 1991, a shy 16-year-old arrived at Hallowell Close. It would seem that the proto-Mumsnet had been busy, and a certain Mrs. Lambert had been asking her friend, Mrs. Williamson, about how she saw her young son Andy's future shaping up. Mrs. Lambert was rightfully proud of her own son's progress at a sound company called R.G. Jones, and suggested that there may be a possibility there for young Andrew. He had obviously blown it at school and needed some direction. And audio engineering sounded like the ideal opportunity to discover himself. The chance to go out onto Mitcham Common in the rain with a certain Pete Gale and hold a slippery scaffold pole steady whilst Pete wielded a slippery sledgehammer at it was all the encouragement a young man could want. What better introduction to sound engineering? Adventure with added danger was the perfect formula for establishing what has become a solid, reliable, professional and caring attitude to a massively demanding job. And he was and is the perfect R.G. Jones employee. It's just as well, really, because he owns half the company now. Unlike many of us here, he's never been lured by the apparent bright lights of freelancing, preferring the challenge of keeping his own house in order instead. For me personally, R.G. Jones has been the bedrock for a career that has enabled me to develop skills that I never even dreamed I would have. I can solder, for a start, and I can use SuperCalc. Well, I used to be able to, but I've managed to lose the 4.5-inch floppy. Oh, and I know how to tie a bow tie, thanks to the fabulous Stuart Collins from the fabulous Henley Festival, who, apart from many other moments of fabulousness, even managed to get me on Radio 4 once, talking about hauling large mixing consoles through the mud. I still have the C60 cassette. Nothing to play it on, however. My kids keep asking me what it is. I also know how to design sound systems for pretty much any situation. I know how to mix absolutely anything anybody can throw at me, especially when it involves an orchestra. That's if Phil's not doing the gig. I know all about the Muslim prayer cycle, 7 pillars of Islam, and how to make amazing dal. I can talk to people with a degree of authority about sound that has led me to become a teacher on the subject, and somehow I have the ability to write it all down in a hopefully entertaining way. All because in 1979 I walked into Streatham Job Centre and then managed to convince Robin Jones that I was a legitimate and trustworthy human being, despite the scruffy outer layer. If you were to ask anyone who's been through the ranks, they will tell you, I hope, that it was for them the best grounding in the industry they could possibly have had. There are faces here that will always be a part of the R.G. Jones DNA, and I'd appreciate treating this bit a bit like a roll call. I want here, sir, okay? Capel. Sir. Lambert. Sir. Lutley. Sir. Cheney. Where is he? No. Jackson. Yeah. Gale. Yeah. Partridge. Yeah. Truitt. Yeah. Key. Yeah. Pell. Sir. Burks. No, not here. No. Edwards. Spears, and many others not with us, all of whom have gone on to the very top of their chosen trees. They may have moved on, but a bit like the childhood home, I reckon R.G. Jones will always hold a special place in their hearts. These people now form the very top echelons of the pro audio engineering tree, and Ricky makes a mean sandwich. And whenever a particularly demanding job looms, it's always a real pleasure to get a few people back together to take on the world. Embarking on a journey at R.G. Jones is to become a part of something. You're on a mission to make the world a better sounding place, no matter what might get in the way, usually a television camera. The fact that we are here celebrating 90 years of R.G. Jones is unprecedented in this industry. Working in this game is a commitment like no other, and I don't want to finish without paying tribute to all of you who have lived this life vicariously by way of romantic attachment to all of us who have thrown ourselves at the job. You know who you are, and to all of you, I raise a glass.
I would always recommend somebody to R.G. Jones to learn.
It's that whole vibe of friends and family.
Just being able to get involved in events that touch vast numbers of people.
I think all the guys who work at RG are constantly educating their peers.
I'm talking with Bob Cable, Steve Lutley, Jim Lambert, Mark Swan. We've all known each other at different parts of our lives, our careers here.
And that is why it's been such a fantastic training ground.
I learned more than I could ever hope to learn at R.G. Jones.
Ego has to be left by the door, and you actually share.
And it's the satisfaction of solving that problem that really is the driving force behind what we do.